Hello out there in internet lands. Hello and welcome to 25 Cents, an Apple Arcade sort of podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Nick. Each episode will be talking about the Apple Arcade or other video games we've tried, what we keep going back to, and what we think might be great games to check out if you've got kids.
And you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, of course, or on the web at Goodstuff.fm. Hello, Nick. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good.
I guess that's a relative question these days.
Yeah, we're keeping busy. Work has been busier and a little more stressful of late, and obviously there's the constant barrage of stay-at-home related updates. Now, you must be out of mandated quarantine at this point.
Yeah, we're out of our, because we were out of country, we were out of our 14-day self-isolation deal. So, yeah, that's just ended on last weekend, or where are we here? I forget. Anyways, it all blurs together as it does. But so that ended, and then just as we ended that, everybody was also entering basically don't go outside and quarantined effectively. And so it kind of felt like a great thing, but so we could go to Costco and stand in line with all the other zombies as we walk through Costco carefully without touching anybody. But yeah, beyond that, it hasn't changed a whole lot in terms of we're less at risk of getting like a $2 million fine, $2 million Canadian. So that's what, $50 American fine to if we were spotted outside our house, basically. So now we're okay.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, I did a grocery run Sunday morning, and the proportion of mask wearers was definitely up from what it had been 2 weeks ago. I guess we're in quarantine corner right now, kind of just talking about it, and it varies. Every jurisdiction is doing things a little differently and in different orders: local, state/province. Federal,
so even at
everything.
Like in your so it's not just a state control, it's each city, each even county within a city. Is counties are bigger than cities, or cities are bigger than, I forget how it works there.
Yeah. So counties are bigger than cities, and it's definitely weird in the US in areas where where there's a big city, because your city area might actually extend beyond the county boundaries, because the county was created a long time ago before the city was big.
Right.
But the city only really has influence over its city limits. I remember running into this when we lived in Boston. So Boston, geographically, the city is very small, but the mayor of Boston is fairly powerful in terms of what they can change. But if you live like just across the river, you're going into downtown Boston all the time, but you have no ability to vote for the mayor or city council, for example. So right. There's weird stuff like that when you get into these different jurisdictions. So I have not kept very good track over what exactly the city, the school district, which is in our case the city, the county, and the state are all doing in terms of policy. The general rule is stay at home except for essentials. So food and medical purposes is basically the only reason you're supposed to be going out.
Yeah, and there seems to be, so this is, I guess we could sort of / quarantine corner / kids who are listening to this podcast, political civic education corner, maybe. This is our required homeschooling corner.
Yes. Oh yeah, there we go. We can put together a little segment and be teachers for 5 minutes.
I'm a teacher already now. I'm bordering on like cutting off everything like this, doing the podcast and stuff in my life, because it feels like we just got dumped on with the school now deciding to completely go. So like up until before Friday last week, basically they were saying, you know what, school's probably done. We're not going to do much. Then Friday, some emails came out of like, hey, log into your Google Classroom accounts and stuff, and we've got this all thing set up. And then Monday was just like this big dump of, here's all the stuff for the week, and like I said, we've got a grade 7, grade 4, and grade 2, so obviously varying degrees of amount of schoolwork, but it's like 2 to 3 hours of schoolwork per day at the top end, anyways, which. Like logically, you can do the math of like, well, you used to be in school for 6 hours. Now you're just doing it for 2 to 3. What's the big deal? But to kids who've been basically said, school's done, play Minecraft for 2 hours every day. Now,
Right.
flip that to we're going back to school, and it's also in a format that's very frustrating, confusing, and new online, which
Right.
I think, like in
And
the end, will
and
be good. But just it's a tense household this morning.
yeah, everything's going, remote learning, but there was no real plans in place. So we here, the school district had been holding off on committing, but yesterday evening the governor said all schools are closed around the state for the rest of the
Oh,
school
okay.
year. Um, and then so Frasley in the chat mentions one of the reasons our school district, because it's a large public school district, had not rolled out a consistent remote learning plan over the last few weeks since we've been closed is because they hadn't yet figured out how to handle the equity question, which is there are not computers in every household. There's not consistent internet access in every household. In fact, it's something like a third of the school district is, considered it's not poverty line, but in need of additional help to even be able to do remote learning. So
Yeah.
they couldn't just just log into Google or log into Microsoft Teams or something. So they've been figuring that out. The downside of that for us as kindergarten parents is we are the lowest priority age demographic in terms of figuring out what to do.
Yeah.
They're starting with high school seniors to make sure they can graduate, and then they're doing high schoolers to make sure they get lined up on all their standardized tests. And it makes sense, but there has not been a lot of guidance in terms of what the little kids should do.
Yeah.
So teachers been sending out some worksheets and little activity videos, which has been helpful. But there's no central plan yet.
Yeah.
And the big gap is on the social side. I mean, so for you've got 3 kids, so yes, they might be at each other's throats, but they're also at least interacting some. Right now, my son has not interacted in person with another child in almost a month.
I know there's going to be some weird sociological, ripples from all
Yes.
of this. Like, it's just, yeah.
We're doing a mass experiment, which we don't know what'll happen yet.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because and even the teachers themselves, you can tell are struggling because some of them, we have one teacher who's a younger teacher and also a technology minded teacher. And he's like flourishing in this. He's like got courses set up. He's got the YouTube videos walking
Right.
people through stuff, screencasts, and then another teacher's sending like these really low res but blown up screen or either phone or scanned images of like questionnaires and stuff where you can't even read the thing, and sort of those two extremes depending on the teacher's ability to just grapple with all the tech that's being thrown at them as well now. And yeah, that's where it just feels like, you know what, let's just go like school light or just minimal for this next few months. It almost feels like we should do because everybody's struggling. And like I tweeted this morning, like any parents or any home where it's like a single parent or dual parent working, as is the case for us right now, it's like a gong show for trying to get anything done. Like but I mean, I appreciate the focus and the work of having stuff for the kids to do. And I want them to learn, obviously. Like there's only so much learning they're doing in Minecraft. It's great, but it's, it is just
Right.
Minecraft. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting struggle. The funny thing is they started this up today, and then we have like the Easter week holiday next week, basically, which normally would be off from school. So it's Friday, and then next week is actually a holiday. And so they are honoring the holiday. And so
Interesting.
So we still have the holiday, even though we haven't had school, which is great. Like it's kind of like power through this week here and see how it actually affects us day to day and what we can get done. And I know like 2 weeks from now, when we're back, it'll be probably a little easier to grapple what actually needs to happen. Once we get all our computer stuff set up too for our kids, each kid has to like have accounts to log in and time on a computer and figure all that stuff out. So anyways, that's where it was much simpler with video games before, which is why we started this
Yes.
podcast.
Yes. Yeah. So we are certainly using play to educate when possible. But for example, we're not doing screen time in the mornings on the week. We're trying to kind of start the day off with at least a little motivation towards, some handwriting practice or reading or something that's a little more like school, even though we haven't gotten a lot of structure yet. But of course, we are certainly using educational documentary content and that kind of thing to manage our time. And I'm working from home trying to put in an 8-hour day. Some of my coworkers' hours have slid quite a bit. So, some of them are logging on with questions at like 1 p.m., it seems like. And then they have questions for me late at night because they're still working. But everybody's managing that time in a different way. And I've just tried to block my calendar so I can do a block or two of teaching every day. I do one in the afternoon and one in the morning as much as possible, as long as I don't have meetings. Yeah. So we have digressed pretty far from games, but I wanted to come back to some of the things that maybe your kids were playing up until the school hammer dropped.
Yeah, so the Switch was really popular, obviously being the new thing, and then we kind of went away and then came back, and Minecraft, because of cousins and stuff all over this country here that they want to play with, varying formats and devices and things they have access to. So Minecraft sort of took over, and it has become the de facto game of choice, and whether it's even on the Xbox or on the computer. And but then we're also like seeing, because the kids are on the screen so much as it is trying to do schoolwork and stuff, we're kind of like, now we're trying to balance how much actually game time to actually give them, because otherwise if they do 2 hours of schoolwork on the computer and then also 2 hours of Minecraft on the computer, and you're kind of just like staring at the screen all day. And so that's kind of the balance we're walking this week anyways. We'll see where we land, but we're kind of settling back into more normal routine, like as if they were at school all day, and then, some screen time at the end of the day before supper or whatever is kind of the route we're taking. But I actually dove back into Breath of the Wild, and I like you, I think, have been inundated with Animal Crossing tweets and promotions, and it's just everywhere, like literally and I understand why. Like, it's a very calming kind of game to play in a real world that's very chaotic. And so I found myself feeling like I have to get this game. Like, literally everybody is telling me.
The bandwagon effect.
Yeah.
I think at least 2 other podcast communities I'm in, the Slack channel or whatever, if there's a video games channel, it's been taken over by Animal Crossing memes and updates and friend code sharing and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then I was like, man, I have got a game already that I remember people saying was so fun and therapeutic and calming, and, this adventure that you go on, and I haven't finished that. So why am I pining after this other game? So I pulled out the Switch, reconnected it, because we hadn't reconnected after our holiday, and dove back into that, and both on the TV and then on just handheld, and found actually, it can work fairly well both ways. And so that's where I've been, what little gaming time I've had outside of managing kids' Minecraft servers and IT work and related to that. It's been mostly Zelda, and actually the Apple Arcade stuff is, I think because the phone is such, for me, because it's such a focus right now for work and or communication with family or friends or whatever, trying to keep in touch. It's almost a thing where I don't look at it as just the slab of whatever this aluminium or whatever these the new ones are,
hovering in a white room.
Yeah, it's not like a relaxing gaming device to me anymore. It's the stress box almost, in a sense. And so I guess it'd be different if I had an iPad that I maybe switched to in that sense, or the perpetual Apple TV that we're waiting for to come out. But so that's where Apple Arcade, has definitely taken a second, third seat to most other activities, for at least in our household, for sure. How about you?
I think so. For me, it's still a great. Some of the games that I keep going back to, like Grindstone, which just added more levels.
Right. Yeah, we should mention that.
And then I was trying Round Guard, I think I mentioned last week. There's still a good, so I don't have a commute right now, obviously, but there's still a good snackable game size for when, like, I just need a quick 5-minute break or maybe 10 minutes before bedtime, where I want a small little game experience. Compared to, I think the other night, I think maybe Sunday night, I actually kind of stayed up for about an hour playing Yoshi's Crafted World on the Switch, which was a lot of fun, but not my usual dedicated game time. For my son, I think where he is developmentally as a 6.5-year-old is novelty matters. So Apple Arcade is actually great for that, because there's obviously not all of them are age appropriate, but there's over 100 games now. And so I can and there's new ones coming, so I can kind of roll out new ones as they come and keep his interest that way. We did finish Spider, all of the existing levels, and that was a lot of fun. I think I mentioned that one last episode. Definitely would recommend.
Oh, nice.
And we tried. I think you had posted that conducting together on the Switch was on sale for 1 cent.
Yeah.
So I bought it for one Nintendo coin or whatever it is, and that was a lot of fun. You play as two players, where one player controls the brakes on every train, and one player controls all the switches on the rails. And so my son was doing switches, and I was doing brakes, and I'd be like, switch one,
Yeah.
and he'd reroute the train, and then I'd have to stop it so it didn't crash. And that was a fun little game to play together as well. How
Yeah.
about you?
Yeah,
What are
we
you coming
tried.
back
I
to?
tried with my grade 4, so 10-year-old now, I guess. But we tried doing that. The other two were busy. The other kids were busy, and so just tried to, because I wanted to try it without all four of us sitting down to play that, and we were just doing it on the Switch itself. So I had this, I was holding the Switch, I think, and then each had a controller, and it is like, it's a fun little puzzle game that's, hopefully your kids don't get too stressed out by it. And it is, I think it's still on sale. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but you can, and somehow you get Nintendo coins that basically amount to like a penny or something, because the games aren't free. They're like 1 cent. I don't know if that's the same in the States, but for us here, it's like it was a penny to buy the game, but I had Nintendo coins from something, which I think you earn in game maybe.
I think you earn them from other purchases, right? So
Oh, is
it's
it
like
like that?
it seemed
Yeah.
like yeah, it seemed like we got coins for registering some of our other games. But yeah, like you would need 2,000 coins to buy a $20 US game, which is what a lot of the sort of premium download games seem to be, around $20. And then of course the the big games are all $60 for the cartridge. So a very different upfront cost compared to the Apple Arcade subscription. Although, of course, at this point, I've had it since September, so I'm spending a fair bit a month on that.
Yeah.
But again, a big variety of games that I've gotten out of that.
Yeah, and did you? That's where I'm. I'm good at updating our Twitter account with new Apple Arcade information, but not good at actually following through and playing it. So you can follow at 25C Arcade on Twitter if you're interested. But the did you try Oceanhorn 2? That was another sort of RPG ish, Zelda ish kind of game.
Yeah, so I think that was one of their launch titles that was in a lot of the promotions, but I hadn't touched it because I didn't have really a good device to play it on. And I definitely did not install it on a Catalina powered computer that I now have access to at home. Uh, but if I had done that and hooked a controller up to it, I would say that uh, it's very much so I haven't played any of the modern Zeldas except Twilight Princess briefly, but it's Zelda. It's a Zelda game with nice 3D effects. You're in an open world, you're running around, you're smashing pots and cutting grass to restore your health. You've got a sword, you've got a shield, you've got bombs, you can lift things. The kind of all the usual mechanics. Now I haven't played Breath of the Wild, although you've certainly tried to convince me, and maybe that is a big game that I'll want to pick up as stay at home continues.
Yeah, it's definitely one that is, well. Here's my main struggle with Zelda, honestly, and I'm sure Zelda fans could scream at me in protest, but because of just the nature of how often or little I play, it's kind of like feast and famine in terms of how often I can get into a game and how much and frequently. And so I just start, like, I went back to it. I was like, I cannot remember where I was in the world. And it's like so massive. So it takes, the first sort of hour or half hour or whatever, like reorienting myself to where I actually need to be and what my missions are. And there is good in-game controls for directing you to where you need to be. And it's kind of just like trying to remember the storyline and get immersed back into it when you've been away from it
Right.
for a month. Whereas like picking up, yeah, like the conducting together, obviously, or like NHL hockey or something like that, is just like there's no there's no storyline that you need to remember, obviously, in what world you've been into and what you were supposed to go run and grab on a side mission and things like that. But once I kind of reoriented myself, it is like now it's kind of like I want to go back and keep going, because I'm maybe 20% of the way through, I think, like just looking at the map anyways. It's just massive, and there's so many side quests, and I don't really want to know what the hour time limit is
Right.
for like a person going through it on average, because it'll either depress me or whatever in terms of how much time I still have left. But I do have like the desire to finish the game and follow it through, and just kind of finding the time to do it obviously is the main thing these days. And where you're not sort of screen. I'm not one of those people who comes away from working on the screen and then switching to like the Xbox or the Switch even. That doesn't, there's like enough of a mental shift there that doesn't bother me, and my eyes don't get bugged by it or whatever. I don't get a headache from working on the computer all day. But it still is just kind of like the toll of like staring at screens all day, I think, day after day without even going outside as much as we used to does take its toll, I think. So it's a weird time to be.
My eye doctors over the years would certainly say that's why I'm getting slowly more nearsighted, is too much screen time.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you wear glasses? You have contacts and glasses, or just glasses?
Just glasses. I for quick reasons, I cannot do contacts. Just the thinking about it gives me chills.
Nice. Yeah.
Got a weird thing about my eyes or something. But I used to just wear glasses for distance vision, and now I use it all the time for screens. Or whatever the case may be. It's just enough. But I feel a similar sort of dividing line, like what I do on the work computer is different enough than what I'm doing on my phone or doing visualizing on the family iPad with friends and family, that it doesn't bother me or overlap or anything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I just thought I just got invaded here, I think, with something, but somebody sorted it out, I guess. We'll see.
Yes, on days when I'm busier with meetings, I get cutely drawn notes slipped under the door about one thing or another, or whatever's on my son's mind that he's doodling.
That's where you have to, as you do a podcast now with kids, it's kind of funny because you're like, maybe someday they might actually listen to this and they might be either hurt or offended that I didn't really love the drawings they left for me under the drawing. So the one thing I've been doing is, if we're talking about a game that he and I have played together, I always ask him before we record, like, hey, do you want me to mention if you liked this game? Oh yeah. So nothing new. I guess I don't know. We want to go to Apple TV Corner quickly because there's nothing new there really to talk about. As far as I actually find myself now checking more than I was before any sort of pandemic thing. I was kind of like, I think because we're stuck at home, we do have Apple TV content or Apple Media content, whatever the term is for the stuff that you've bought through Apple iTunes and now Apple TV. And so something like Mythic Quest, the TV show, I'm trying to watch. I have 2 episodes left, I think, on the season. And so it's either watched on my laptop or that's it. Basically, it's watched on my laptop or my phone. And so, that's where it's tough to try and like. I'd love an Apple TV. Just be able. We have the big TV. Just watch it on there.
Right.
No problem. But nothing new yet. Nothing coming as far as
I suspect from what I've heard from the Apple podcast sphere and rumor sites is that they've launched some new hardware. There was definitely an expectation of more hardware around the end of March, and I imagine a lot of the supply chain related disruption and staff availability and not being able to have a big media event where you invite people has thrown off some of those plans. I mean, I don't know, but I just knowing Apple's style, I could imagine that they would choose to delay things into summer and their new virtual WWDC. But other than my interest in it as a platform, I'm not sure. We're not an Apple podcast, but I did find in the bottom of my electronics drawer, I still have my Steam Link, that little box they sold for a while. So I might hook that up again and see what its capabilities are. I think it can do more device mirroring and whatnot than it was able to do at first. So I might play around with that again.
Speaking of other random, sorry, we're kind of jumping around, I know, but I know on the Switch anyways, Drawful 2 is available free or 1 cent or whatever it is as well. I don't know if you grabbed that one. That's a fun one for families to play. We have it on the Steam platform already, but I grabbed it on the Switch as well just because might as well. But it's a great one to play locally or over streaming or whatever, anything like that with friends remotely as well. We did it with some friends over Zoom. And Zoom, actually, the most recent updates, I can't speak for Google Hangouts and Skype and stuff, but as far as sharing audio from your computer, software that you're running on your computer, like that game, they've updated Zoom anyways to allow for the sound to go through as well without too much extra hassle of hooking up loopback or other software things that we had to do in the past back in when we had to walk to school uphill both ways, along with routing audio in magical ways to get it shared over the screen.
Yeah.
Like that. So
Yeah, we've done some family Jackbox rounds with TKO and Quiplash, but I have not tried Drawful. I don't think it was in the Steam pack I got.
oh yeah.
I'll have to. So when you do the local play on the Switch, how does that work? Like one person is drawing on the console and everyone else is watching the TV?
No, it still is just like the other game where the Switch is effectively just your game board, and then everybody still needs a device to draw on. So you would it's just basically a connector. It's like a web view, right, of Jackbox.tv basically somehow. And so you load up the code, enter the room, and you're all on your own devices doing the drawing and things like that with it. So, and it is like kid friendly mostly. Like, I mean, kindergarten is probably a little rough sometimes for some of the prompts. They don't know what it is, and so it's very obvious that it's not anywhere close to what it's supposed to be. Even though even the best adult drawing is pretty brutal at times, but because there's no the fun thing with Drawful is there's no eraser, and so you're not able to undo anything. Once it's on the screen, it's there, which kids kind of like at first get frustrated with because they mess up and you can't undo. So, but if you have a group of, I'd say 4 or more, it's a fun one to play. So like remote over Zoom or whatever, and so you could have it on your Switch with like a camera pointed at your TV or at the Switch screen, sharing that maybe over Zoom or FaceTime or whatever. That would still work enough to get the prompts for people to see the scores and all that kind of stuff over something like that. You don't have to do anything too complicated to share the screen, but that's a fun one to pass some time anyways and still have a connection with relatives or friends.
Yeah, we did just like a quick family round with just I think it's the whiteboard feature in Zoom. Doing little doodles that way, and that worked pretty well, although everyone was coming up with their own prompts, and I think that may have affected the outcome. We should have like drawn cards from like the apples to apples deck or something like that.
Yeah. How did Quiplash go? That's another. I don't think that's one's actually. All the Jackbox games are on Switch, I think as well. Jackbox packs I think are available, or most of them anyway. So whatever platform you prefer for that, the Jackbox games, whether Steam, Xbox, Switch, PlayStation, I think even, and then of course Steam I guess would be PC, Windows, or Mac. But how did Quiplash go?
So I think when we played that with family, we had the same problem that we had when we recorded Crosstalk the other week, where we only really had 3 players, and that makes the voting weird.
Yeah.
But we did. I did Quiplash with some coworkers, and that worked pretty well, except for the audio thing you mentioned, where I didn't have a way to like loop it back into the chat program.
Right.
I tried setting up Jack, which is one of the open source alternatives, and it like doesn't work with the default audio device on Mac OS sometimes. So I gave up after 20 or 30 minutes of mucking around with that and reading GitHub bug reports.
It's so fun playing a game where you have to go to GitHub to figure out how to get audio routed.
It is a game. You're right. It is a game in and of itself.
Yeah. So it's a fun one, and that's where we played with 2 families. I guess it was just 2 families, and there's 8 people maximum can play, and then we have collectively had 5 kids, or no, 8 kids. Sorry, yeah. Basically all the controller spots were taken by kids, and then parents obviously helping kids spell things out or whatever when they wanted to. And it with kids of a certain age and style, it eventually just descends into potty humor. Like it's just funny to see the word poop on the screen and have it be voted for and all that kind of stuff. And so we had actually prompted our kids beforehand, because we were playing with some friends for the first time who hadn't played it before, and we told our kids, no toilet humor this time. Just like keep it out of the bathroom this time, just so that if they're not like on board with toilet humor as being funny, we don't want to be the ones who are. But then their kids actually ended up putting all these poop and whatever jokes in for kids and getting all the votes and winning the game. So I think our kids were a little choked, but anyways, all good, all fun. But
I think I did want to just, it reminded me on some of the games, the Apple Arcade games we've tried that are multiplayer, the fact that the multiplayer support is Game Center only, and I think we've talked about this before, is for certain game types, like definitely to its detriment. Like you can't do, we tried Lego Brawls several episodes ago, and you can't just have two players playing on the same screen. You can't do. There are several of the multiplayer games that seems like you could have like one person using touch controls and one person using a keyboard or controller, and they just didn't build it that way. And I guess maybe that's a limitation of they have to support all four platforms. I'm not sure, but it's definitely a miss. I feel that there's no local multiplayer option, especially in my case where there's a small kid. So he can't really, like, I guess technically we could do a separate Game Center account on the family iPad, and then like I play on my phone and we play against each other, but that's just not the same kind of fun.
No, exactly. And then you end up fight. I know from our experience, someone inevitably like clicks out of the game and starts doing something else. You don't realize it's just kind of, especially I guess once you've compared how multiplayer, local multiplayer, couch multiplayer, whatever we call it these days, works so well on the Switch, that it feels like the Apple devices could be able to do something similar to that to great success, I guess. And so a bit of, like I said, a bit of a miss, and I don't know. We'll see. It doesn't feel like something that Apple's ever going to really change, though. I think they're going to push the online versions, online multiplayer as the de facto, because they don't want to they wouldn't ever let a developer just develop for Apple TV, let's say, and skip the iPhone, as far as what we've seen. And so that to me feels like almost a missed opportunity. Like I feel like if they did like a first party Mario, caliber game that was like Apple TV only, and it even comes bundled, version 1 or whatever, it comes bundled with the new Apple TV hardware or something like that, but it was still included in Apple Arcade as well, or I don't know, however you work all the economics of that, and just made the Apple TV a like premier gaming platform. I think they could sell a lot of Apple TVs, and honestly, like the Apple Arcade folks, I wouldn't be that disappointed if that was kind of like a really good game on the Apple Arcade,
right.
Apple TV. I think it would make sense. Like I would be all for that.
Well, and right now, in terms of hardware pricing, the Apple TV is extremely expensive as a streaming box. But for a console, it's not so bad, because a Switch starts at $300, and that's not even going to get you extra Pro controllers or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
An Apple TV is currently $150 or $200 depending on storage, and that's obviously way above the little streaming sticks, which are in the 30 to 50 range.
Yeah.
So it's in this weird middle right now where and that's why we keep coming back to it. Like they need a new hardware launch that's focused on Apple Arcade if they're going to take the gaming side of it seriously.
Yeah, that's exactly like what you said would be the perfect. They're in that sweet spot actually if they had a really good premier gaming platform with it, and so you could be under the Switch and Xboxes and whatever of the world, but still above the streaming dongles and whatever that don't come with all the premier games, and so then you kind of got the best of both worlds. And so we'll see what Apple comes up with later this year, hopefully. And I'm happy to, by the way, like just to make sure it's clear, like I'm really happy that Apple's devoting engineer and development time and whatever to the COVID-19 related stuff they've been doing. Like the test app, the helping get masks shipped and shields and face shields and all that kind of stuff. Like pull everything off Apple TV.
Yeah, we don't need our new toys right now. There are plenty of other priorities they can use their massive supply chain for.
Exactly. So, yeah, don't take this. I don't think we have to preface every podcast episode with that statement, but hopefully that's obvious from the kind of folks we are, anyways, and hopefully what seems like the kind of people Apple is too in terms of what they're doing right now, anyways, in the world.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, anything else before we sign off?
I don't think so. Obviously, we're going to put a pause on picking games for next time until we kind of figure out our routines, and I think our schedule might be a little more flexible because we need to be flexible for kids and work and whatnot.
Yeah.
And just like you said, recovery from all of those things. So. We won't be committing to a playthrough, but I'm sure there will be new games on Apple Arcade or Switch that we will talk about every episode, and with a focus on what the kids are up to.
Yeah, I know you slipped the Switch in there, so I've got you at least to the halfway point of Apple Arcade Switch commitment.
Yeah, of the podcast pivot.
Yeah,
I know.
It's like we're pivoting an ocean liner. We have to slowly.
Yes, yeah. Rotate azimuthal thrusters, Captain.
Take a drink if Nick makes a Star Trek joke. I'm assuming that's a Star Trek joke. reference?
It's a little bit of both.
All right. Well, thank you for listening
If
to
I were
20.
going for Star Trek, I would have said RCS thrusters.
There we go. Thank you for listening to 25 Cents, an Apple Arcade / Switch podcast. You can find me on Twitter at iChris.
And you can find me on Twitter and most everywhere else, probably talking about Star Trek, as Ultra Nerd. That's NURD.
And you can find 25 Cents wherever you listen to podcasts. And be sure to check out the Good Stuff Patreon, patreon.com/goodstuff. If you're looking for other interesting shows to listen to, there's lots of stuff going on at Goodstuff.fm. I want to say the morning show, but it's actually Midnight Snack, has a bunch of fun episodes and kid friendly. I want to say that with a slight asterisk, because I think I've listened to all of them with my kids, or my kids have listened to all of them, and they haven't told me things that Kyle and Kenny have said that they were shocked or disgusted at, other than like fun food things that they find hilarious. But so mostly kid friendly, definitely not sweary. So that's all good. And goodstuff.fm, all the podcasts you need for your pandemic fun. We'll see you again next time. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, fade that out. I noticed, there's, where was he? Darksage9117 popped in for a bit to have a little chat. I wasn't sure how to work that into what we were actually talking about, but
it was. It's a good question. We could maybe put that as a listener feedback next time. Sort of when do you decide that a game story is over? And it connects a little bit to Apple Arcade, because some of these games that are more story based, we say like, oh, you play it and then you're done. But it seems like some of them are then going to add content later, and so that's kind of an interesting question. You're updating the same game with more story.
Right.
We could kind of take that angle on it.
Yeah. Interesting. Or do you just, gotcha. That is where the Zelda, I tried, because with the Switch, if you have the, what's it called, their subscriber Nintendo online plan or whatever, you get access to Nintendo Entertainment System emulators and Super Nintendo, and they have some of the old Zelda games on there, not all of them, but a lot of them. And so I was kind of toying with the idea of going back and playing through all the old ones, because I'd never actually really played through all the old ones either. But that feels a whole different kind of overwhelming right now to try.
Yeah, it's been fun watching. I think listener Jay on Twitter has been working through the Mario 2D games from NES on, and the last I don't know, maybe 2 months when he's not at work, and that's been fun to follow, because of course I played a lot of those games, sometimes at friends, never beat them, or later via emulation, and some of them it's a reminder that the old Mario games are like hard but actually quite short. So if you're good at a platformer, you can tear through them in a couple hours, because they couldn't fit that much content on the cartridge, right?
Yeah, that's where it's it's fun to go load those up and play them, and even just I've tried them with my kids at various times too, and just remembering all the little tricks of Super Mario Brothers or whatever that are just like muscle memory. I don't even have to think about it too much. It just says how much actually I played that game over and over and over back in the day.
Right.
But I was toying with I saw someone streaming, I think it was Animal Crossing. I was watching them play on Twitch or whatever, and it's like, oh, it'd be fun if I got the dongle or whatever to connect the Switch to be able to stream it and just zone out on some of those old not Apple Arcade, the old NES and Super NES games for a while, and that's an easy sort of fun thing to do. But we'll save our money for toilet paper.
Yeah,
we haven't reached diaper status, or we're not going back to diaper status. But
yeah, we had done a Costco, our usual stock up Costco order, right before everything got wild with the supply chain. So we have the big old pack.
Yeah.
And we're good for a while.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to turn the stream off. Thanks for watching out there if you are, and watch it later. And we'll see you again hopefully next week-ish. Just depends on work and life, obviously, as to when and if we can stream.
We're going to try for approximately weekly.
Yeah. All right. Ending.